achieve and reach a world without
The
barriers.
Zero Project is a global initiative
Where everyone can participate and be part. And it's not every day that I get to introduce my amazing friends to all of you. I already got to introduce Martin Essel to you. Now I get to introduce Nico Langmann, and Robin already did some very good teasing for him. He's not only the best dressed Paralympic athlete we have in Austria, he's one of the best wheelchair tennis players that we have in the world. And he's not only fighting for his performance on the court, but he's also trying to take as many people with him into an inclusive world, a world without barriers, not only through his sports, but also by enabling others to have access, to be able to play sports, to be able to partake in our society, and especially sports has a big role. But also realizing that it's important to change the systems and the things that we already have and not every time invent something new. And with his drive and his persistence and consistency, he was able to implement an inclusive wheelchair tennis tournament into the biggest tennis tournament in Austria, which was amazing. And he will tell us about his story and his road to all the things that he has achieved. So give it up for Nico Langmann. Big round of applause.
Woo! Thank you very much.
Woo!
Thank you very much for this incredible honor to speak right after the opening ceremony on such an incredibly important event, and to also, well, give the stage to an, in perspective seen, relatively insignificant thing as sport. But I think we can now talk together in the next few minutes about how we can make this insignificant thing called sport into a very impactful and meaningful thing. And that's why today I will talk about this very event Andreas already spoke about an international tennis tournament that is established in Austria or in Vienna for 50 years. It's the biggest tennis tournament we have in Austria. And last year we managed to also have a wheelchair tennis tournament included there. And I want to talk about this example of parasport in the spotlight. I want to talk how it worked, how we managed to do that, but also where we can improve and where there's also the difficult parts in implementing such an event. Just to start with a short visual explanation, I am sitting in a wheelchair. I am having, Andreas called me the best dressed, so I'm very flattered for that, because I normally dress all my sports clothes every day, so if I have a great event like this, I want to stand out maybe. So I have a green trousers matched with a green shirt and kind of a scarf, and I'm 28 years old, have brown hair, and that's me. So about this event, I want to give you like a short introduction how the situation of parasport, of wheelchair tennis in Austria and in the world looks like. My unbiased and very humble opinion is that tennis is the probably best inclusive sport there is in the discipline of parasport, because we have been part of many big stages in the world of tennis already. There's the 4 Grand Slam tournaments, Wimbledon, US Open, French Open, Australian Open, we maybe know. And at these events, wheelchair tennis has been an essential part of the events for a long time already. Wheelchair tennis is also integrated in the International Tennis Federation for a long time already, so also organizational-wise, we are a part of the tennis world for a long time. And in Austria, we also have 3 big tournaments for a long time. One is in Vienna, one is in Tirol, in Kitzbühel, and one is in Linz. And at all 3 events in the past, because wheelchair tennis is a big thing in the world of tennis, we held exhibition events. It was like no way of getting past the matter of inclusion, but it wasn't really integrated. These exhibition events mostly maybe a 5-minute match in between 2 matches, maybe a 10-minute show match in between matches. So it felt like the organizational teams, without speaking disrespectful now, just tick the box of inclusion. Well, we showcased some of wheelchair tennis, but we didn't really interrupt the main event, which is the able body event. And that's what, in the beginning, for me, it was an honor to be part of such an event, to have like 5 minutes on the center court and play there. But as time went by and my understanding of inclusion changed, I thought inclusion means to have the same respect as an athlete, whether you have a disability or not, and the same respect for me as a competitor in tennis is to have a competition. So I asked the events, the organizations there, why not make a small competition as well? Why not make a parallel competition for wheelchair tennis and for able-bodied tennis players at the same venue at the same time? And I got told that it's difficult infrastructure-wise, but the next year there was a parallel event for juniors being held, so infrastructure shouldn't have been a problem because there was obviously enough courts. And I got told that maybe the next year we will hold it, maybe the next year we will hold it, but it never really got into place. So what happened? What turned this reluctant people into enthusiastic people were two things. First of all, when we talk about Vienna, there was really an infrastructural change. They took a second venue to the existing venue, and there was actually the time and courts available to make a wheelchair tennis tournament. And then the second time there was, or the second important thing that happened, was a sponsor came in, the Austrian lotteries, who said, we want to sponsor the tournament, but our strategy is, whatever we sponsor, we want to include men, women, and parasport on the same level. So, because money was involved, suddenly the people went from being reluctant to being enthusiastic. And that's when the planning started, how we could execute this tournament. We met together 9 months before the tournament took place in October of last year. So in February we met, we said, okay, we want to do this. I was lucky enough to be part of this organization team. They said, okay, we know how to make an able-bodied tournament. Nico, please teach us how to make a wheelchair tennis tournament. And this is one of the things that I want to discuss with you now on how I'm really grateful of making this tournament happen, but also I think that there's many points which are dangerous when organizing something like this. And one of these things is, as we heard before, is that life experience is a skill set. And my skill set was to provide them the knowledge how to make a wheelchair tennis tournament, so I was hired to do it. Hired is a misleading word maybe, because I was given the task of doing it, but I didn't get anything paid for it. Obviously I didn't do it for the money, I'm really happy to be making it possible, but I think that maybe in retrospective I might have done a disservice to the community, because I was counseling them about inclusion, but it was seen as a non-profit thing to do because it's a good thing to do. And I think this is something that we will learn in the next 3 days, that our skills are valued skills, and as such they should be valued for their time and for their experience. But yeah, with lots of help, lots of meetings, lots of work involved, we made it happen. We see on the screen right now a picture of a match. I obviously chose a picture of me playing, I'm sorry for that. And it was, in the end, it was 6 players invited for a tennis tournament. The prize money was 20,000 euros for all of us together. It was only male players. I think this is also a point where we want to improve in the coming years. It is the tournament that's taking place in Vienna is also only for male players. That's more or less the organization said, so we only invite male wheelchair tennis players, but they said in the future they want to involve in able-bodied and wheelchair tennis also female players, so I think this is also a big point we should be emphasizing on. And it was 3 days of competition, and we used the topic of wheelchair tennis to make it broader or wider than only hosting tennis matches. There was side events also. We had business breakfasts where many people from Austria came from business also to talk about the power of inclusion storytelling. We had the the center court where 10,000 people capacity was used for the final of the wheelchair tennis event, which was a big step for wheelchair tennis in Austria. We had an event called Nico, Langmann and Friends, where very few people showed up, to be honest. But it was many other Paralympic athletes. Andreas, for example, showed up, so I'm very thankful for that, who also could try out wheelchair tennis and transport the message of an inclusive sport event to the other parasport divisions as well. And to be honest, the expectation in the event was really, well, I'd say put down with the reality of the event, because in the end, it was the case that it was too few people on the wheelchair courts available for all the spectators to come. So more people wanted to watch more people wanted to watch wheelchair tennis than the organization team expected, which I think is the best sign for them to see, okay, we didn't believe in the project as much, we didn't believe in the product as much, and it surprised us how many people just see wheelchair tennis, want to watch wheelchair tennis, and see the sport as an actual sport. But, and this is the next slide I wanted to discuss with you, and the next, I think, difficult thing when it comes to parasport in general is what real impact and what message do we want to achieve with the parasport event. I think, being a Paralympic athlete myself, I'm not taking myself out of this equation, that parasport can be moving, can be great, can be achieving a lot, but can also be very dangerous in how we communicate. And I myself, for example, did really also have to learn how to accept this Paralympic movement in the right way. For example, before I was attending my first Paralympic Games in 2016 in Rio, I always told people I'm part of the Olympic Games. I always kind of neglected the part that I'm at the Paralympic Games and didn't, I wasn't proud of the fact that I'm part of the Paralympic Games. And until this day, many Paralympic athletes always talk about the Olympic Games, and they talk about how they overcame their disability and how they use all the stereotypes we want to fight against, all the inspiration porn we fight against. And in wheelchair sports or in parasports, lots of these things are being used for attention. And that's why I was really careful in the counseling of the organization team, because there are lots of people who were not in touch before with wheelchair sport, with parasport, and they know how to organize a tennis tournament. They didn't know how to organize an inclusive tennis tournament. So we really tried to, be careful with the messaging and be careful of not using all these inspirational, the inspirational porn that is about and that is dangerous in parasport. So that's why we want to achieve a real impact. And how can we achieve a real impact? How can we achieve a real impact beyond the event of a tennis tournament? That's why there's two more things I want to talk with you. We implemented at the event. We had a wheelchair tryout area there next to the wheelchair tennis court. So when people watched wheelchair tennis, they could also kind of, I think, make the transition into the everyday life, because there we had the challenges of opening doors in a wheelchair, how to maneuver through gravel on a wheelchair. We know about the wheelchair parcours, and we know that one day experience doesn't change minds. But I think that it was important to not only showcase sport, but to also emphasize the topic of inclusion and to emphasize the everyday life of people with wheelchairs. That's why we chose to include also a parcours like this. And on the second point, and now I switch to just straightforward self-advertisement, is that I also was able to have a advertisement place for the Nico Langmann Foundation there to emphasize what I have founded. It's a foundation that is there for to create or to make the access to sport easier for people with disabilities, because, as we know, people with disabilities often need way more support going to sports, way more sports wheelchairs, for example, way more financial. There's often a way bigger financial barrier to go into sport, and that's why the Nico Langmann Foundation is buying tennis wheelchairs, sports equipment for kids with disabilities to go into sport. And that's how we made the impact, I think, beyond the tennis, is to get kids to watch wheelchair tennis, get kids to watch wheelchair sport, but also to offer them some ways into sport so they can implement it in their life without the incredible financial barrier we often have in disability sport. So this is the two big things we, I think, managed to do, but also we're careful to really single out, is that with the visibility we create by being included in a big tennis event already for people with disabilities, a big wheelchair event included in a big tennis event, to share the stage, to not use it in a stereotypical way, but to use it in real engagement, to use it for kids with disabilities to get into sport, but also to use it for the people watching the event to really, well, have an impact beyond this day of watching wheelchair tennis. And I think it was a good example. I think it was an improvable example, but a good example on how it can be done. It can be an example for other sports. It can be an example for other tennis tournaments. And I think that I'm really thankful for sharing this experience with you, my learnings with you. And I hope that next year I'll be here and telling you that next year we made millions of dollars with it, with our experience and skill set that is a valuable one. Thank you.